Mother Bear refuses to leave a lost human child alone. When people know the real reason they were in tears, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you love our videos. The dense pine forest stretched endlessly in every direction as 6-year-old Luna Chen wandered deeper into the wilderness. Thick clouds rolled overhead, and the first drops of cold rain fell through the canopy of leaves. Luna pulled her red jacket tighter around her small shoulders, her heart beating faster with each step she took. She had only wanted to follow the beautiful butterfly with blue wings, but now she couldn't find her way back to the camping site where her family was staying. The rain grew heavier, and Luna's dark hair clung to her face as she tried to retrace her steps. The trees all looked the same, their branches swaying in the wind like reaching arms. Her shoes squished in the mud, and her quiet sniffles turned to frightened sobs. Thunder rumbled in the distance, making her jump. "Mama! Baba!" Luna called out, her voice trembling. Only the echo of her own words answered back. The forest had grown darker, and strange shadows danced between the trees. Luna stumbled over a fallen log, scraping her knee. She curled up against the wet bark, shivering as the storm intensified. That's when she heard it. Heavy footsteps approaching through the underbrush. Luna held her breath, remembering the warning signs about wild animals that she had seen at the campground entrance. The footsteps grew closer, and through the curtain of rain, she saw a massive shape emerging from between the trees. A bear, bigger than any animal Luna had ever seen, its dark fur glistening with raindrops. Luna wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. The bear came closer, its brown eyes fixed on her small form. But there was something in those eyes that made Luna pause. They weren't fierce or angry. They looked sad. The bear moved with careful steps, as if trying not to frighten her. When it was just a few feet away, Luna noticed something else. The bear was bleeding from several deep cuts along its side. The massive animal slowly lowered itself to the ground near Luna, its breathing labored. Despite her fear, Luna felt a strange connection with the creature. The bear's eyes seemed to hold a story, one filled with pain and loss. As another crack of thunder shook the forest, Luna found herself scooting closer to the bear's warm presence, drawn by an instinct she didn't understand. The bear didn't move away. Instead, it shifted its body to shield her from the rain. Time passed slowly as Luna sat beside the massive creature. The storm raged on, but under the bear's protective presence, she felt less afraid. Lightning illuminated the forest in bright flashes, and during one of these moments Luna noticed something that made her heart ache. The bear's wounds were worse than she had first thought. Deep gashes ran along its side, and its fur was matted with both rain and blood. Even more concerning was the way the bear kept looking back into the darkness, as if searching for something it had lost. Luna remembered how her mother always kissed her cuts and scrapes to make them feel better. Without thinking, she reached out her small hand toward the bear's injuries. The bear tensed for a moment but didn't move away. "It's okay," Luna whispered, her voice barely audible above the storm. "I won't hurt you." Her fingertips gently touched the bear's wet fur, and to her surprise, the massive animal let out a soft whimper that sounded almost human. That's when Luna heard another sound, a different kind of cry coming from somewhere in the darkness. The bear's head snapped up, its ears twitching. The cry came again, weaker this time, and Luna realized it sounded like a baby's whimper. The bear rose to its feet, moving with obvious pain, and looked at Luna with what seemed like desperation in its eyes. Then it did something extraordinary. It gently nudged Luna's shoulder with its nose, as if asking her to follow. Luna stood on shaky legs, her heart pounding. Everything she knew told her to stay put when lost, but something deeper told her to trust this injured mother bear. The bear waited patiently, looking back to make sure Luna was following as it limped through the rain-soaked forest. They moved slowly through the darkness, the bear occasionally stopping to listen for the crying sound. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, they reached a steep embankment. The crying was louder now, coming from somewhere below. Luna peered over the edge and gasped. At the bottom of the muddy slope lay a tiny bear cub, its dark fur caked with mud. It wasn't moving much, just letting out weak cries that grew fainter by the minute. The mother bear paced anxiously at the edge of the embankment, leaving bloody footprints in the mud. Luna could see the problem. The slope was too steep and slippery for the injured mother to climb down without falling, and the cub was too young to climb up. The mother bear turned to Luna, and in that moment she understood why she had been brought here. She was small enough to reach the cub, to do what the mother bear couldn't. Luna looked into those deep brown eyes and saw something that would stay with her forever, the universal love of a mother for her child, transcending the barriers between species. The bear was trusting her, a small human child, with the most precious thing in its world. Luna took a deep breath and looked at the steep slope before her. The rain had turned the earth into a treacherous slide of mud and loose rocks. She could hear the cub's cries growing weaker, and the mother bear's anxious breathing behind her seemed to match her own racing heart. Luna thought about how her father had taught her to be brave during their mountain hikes, always telling her that courage wasn't about not being scared. It was about doing what needed to be done, even when you were terrified. With trembling hands, Luna lowered herself onto the muddy slope. The mother bear watched intently as Luna began her careful descent, her small fingers gripping exposed tree roots and rocks for support. The mud squelched beneath her feet, and several times she nearly lost her balance. Each step had to be carefully chosen, each movement deliberate and slow. The rain continued to fall, making the descent even more dangerous, but Luna pressed on. Halfway down, her foot slipped on a loose stone. Luna's heart jumped into her throat as she started to slide, but she managed to grab onto a sturdy root jutting from the embankment. The mother bear let out a distressed growl from above, and Luna could hear its heavy pacing. "I'm okay," she called out, surprised to find herself reassuring a wild animal. The bear's anxious movement settled slightly at the sound of her voice. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Luna reached the bottom of the slope. The tiny cub lay just a few feet away, partially hidden under some fallen branches. As Luna approached, she could see it was even smaller than she had thought. Probably no bigger than her baby cousin. Its fur was matted with mud and what looked like blood, and one of its back legs was bent at an odd angle. The cub's eyes were barely open, but it managed a weak whimper as Luna knelt beside it. Above them, the mother bear watched with such intensity that Luna could feel its gaze on her back. She remembered how her mother had taught her to be gentle with injured animals they found in their garden, like the time they had helped a bird with a broken wing. "It's going to be okay," Luna whispered to the cub, her voice soft and soothing. "I promise I'll help you get back to your mama." With infinite care, Luna began removing the branches covering the cub. They were heavy and slick with rain, but she managed to clear them away one by one. The cub tried to move away from her touch at first, but it was too weak to get far. Luna removed her red jacket, ignoring the cold rain on her skin, and gently wrapped it around the tiny bear. The cub's fur was cold to the touch, and Luna could feel it shivering. The next challenge would be getting the injured cub up the steep slope. Luna looked up at the mother bear, who was now making soft, worried sounds that reminded her of how her own mother sounded when Luna was sick. The slope looked even more intimidating from the bottom, rising up into the rainy darkness like a mountain. Luna knew she couldn't carry the cub and climb at the same time. She would need both hands free to make it back up safely. Using the sleeves of her jacket, Luna carefully fashioned a sort of sling around her body, creating a secure pocket where the cub could rest against her chest. The mother bear watched every movement with intense focus, and Luna found herself explaining what she was doing out loud, just as she would to a person. "I'm going to carry your baby like this," she said, demonstrating the sling's security. "It will be safe, I promise." The cub, whether from exhaustion or a sense of trust, didn't struggle as Luna lifted it into the makeshift carrier. It weighed more than she expected, but the sling distributed the weight well enough that she thought she could manage the climb. The tiny bear's body was warm against her chest, its heartbeat a rapid flutter that seemed to match her own. Luna took one last look at the slope before her, then at the mother bear waiting anxiously above. She had never done anything this scary before, but she knew she couldn't give up. Two mothers were counting on her now, both her own who must be worried sick, and this bear who had trusted her with its baby. Luna began her ascent, every movement carefully considered. The mud seemed even slicker than before, and the weight of the cub made each step more challenging. She could feel its shallow breathing against her chest, reminding her why she had to keep going. The mother bear paced at the top of the slope, occasionally letting out low, worried sounds that echoed through the rain-soaked forest. Halfway up, Luna's hands were covered in mud, and her arms trembled with exhaustion. The cold rain continued to fall, making it harder to see and grip the scattered handholds. She paused for a moment, pressing herself against the muddy slope to rest. The cub stirred in its sling, letting out a weak whimper that sparked an immediate response from its mother above. The sound of the bear's distress gave Luna renewed determination. Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the forest, followed almost immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. Luna flinched at the sudden noise, and her foot slipped on the wet earth. For a terrifying moment she felt herself beginning to slide backward. The cub pressed against her chest, let out a frightened cry, and Luna could hear the mother bear's panicked roar from above. In desperation, Luna threw herself forward, managing to grab onto a thick root protruding from the embankment. Her heart pounding, Luna clung to the root as tiny rivulets of mud and water streamed past her. She could feel the cub trembling against her, and tears mixed with rain on her face. "We're okay," she whispered, though her voice shook. "We're going to make it." Above her, the mother bear had stopped pacing and was now leaning over the edge of the embankment as far as it dared, making soft, encouraging sounds that seemed to say, "Keep going." Luna took a deep breath and forced her tired muscles to move. She was more careful now, testing each handhold before trusting it with her weight. The cub had grown still in its sling, and Luna tried not to think about what that might mean. She focused instead on moving upward, one small step at a time, ignoring the burning in her arms and the way her wet clothes clung heavily to her body. Through the sound of rain and her own labored breathing, Luna began to hear new noises in the forest, distant voices calling out. She recognized one of them immediately. Her mother's voice, tight with worry, calling her name. She wanted to shout back, but she knew she needed all her strength for the climb. The voices seemed to be getting closer, and now she could hear other sounds too, the crunch of boots on wet leaves, the crack of branches, and the steady beams of flashlights cutting through the darkness. The mother bear's head snapped up at these new sounds, its body tensing. For a moment, Luna feared it might run away, leaving her alone on the treacherous slope with its injured cub. But instead, the bear looked down at her with those intelligent eyes, and did something remarkable. It reached one massive paw down toward her, extending it as far as it could without losing its balance. Luna stared in amazement at this gesture of trust and assistance from a wild animal. The bear's paw was huge, its claws as long as Luna's fingers, yet she felt no fear as she reached up toward it. Just as Luna's fingers were about to brush against the bear's paw, a powerful beam of light cut through the darkness, illuminating the entire scene. Multiple voices cried out in alarm, and Luna heard the distinctive sound of rifles being readied. The mother bear reared up in surprise, but instead of fleeing, it positioned itself protectively above Luna and its cub, letting out a warning growl that seemed to shake the entire forest. "Don't shoot!" Luna screamed, her voice carrying clearly through the rain. "Please don't shoot. She's helping me. She's just trying to save her baby." She could see the shocked faces of the rescue team at the top of the embankment, their flashlights and rifles trained on the massive bear that stood between them and a lost child. Among them, Luna spotted her mother's pale face, a mix of terror and confusion in her eyes as she took in the unprecedented scene before her. "Lower your weapons," a new voice cut through the chaos. A tall woman in a forest ranger's uniform stepped forward, her experienced eyes taking in every detail of the scene. Ranger Sarah Martinez had worked in these woods for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The mother bear's behavior defied everything she knew about these animals. "Something's not right here," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Look at how the bear is positioning itself. It's not threatening the child, it's protecting her." Luna's mother, Ming Chen, stepped forward despite the attempts of rescue team members to hold her back. "Luna, baby, are you hurt?" Her voice trembled with a mixture of fear and relief. Luna could see her father, Wei Chen, being restrained by two other rescuers, his face a mask of terrified concern. "I'm okay, Mama," Luna called back, still clinging to the muddy slope. "But the baby bear is hurt really bad. Its mama brought me to help because she couldn't reach it." She shifted slightly, allowing the rescue team to see the cub bundled against her chest in her red jacket. The mother bear remained above her, massive body tense but still making no aggressive moves toward the humans. Ranger Martinez slowly approached the edge of the embankment, her movements deliberate and non-threatening. The mother bear watched her warily, but didn't growl. "The bear is injured," the ranger observed, noticing the deep gashes in its side. "And look at those wounds, they're defensive. Something attacked her and her cub." She turned to the rescue team. "Lower your rifles. Now." This mother fought off something to protect her baby, and now she's trusted a human child to help save it. We're not going to betray that trust." The guards hesitated, but one by one, they lowered their weapons. Luna's parents rushed forward as soon as they were released, but Ranger Martinez held up a hand to stop them. "Wait," she said softly. "Let's not spook them. Your daughter is doing something incredible here." She turned her attention back to Luna. "Sweetie, how's the cub? Is it breathing?" Luna nodded, feeling the weak rise and fall of the cub's chest against her. "But it's really cold, and its leg looks wrong." The mother bear made a soft, mournful sound, as if understanding Luna's words. The rain had finally begun to ease, and in the combined glow of the flashlights, Luna could see tears streaming down her mother's face. "Okay, here's what we're going to do," Ranger Martinez said, taking control of the situation. "Dr. Chen, you're a veterinarian, right?" She turned to Luna's father, who nodded, his professional instincts beginning to override his fear. "Good. We have a wildlife medical kit in the ranger truck. Luna, honey, we're going to help you get up the rest of the way. And then we're going to help both bears. But we need to move very carefully. One wrong move could spook the mother, and we don't want that." The mother bear seemed to sense the change in energy. It looked at Ranger Martinez for a long moment, then back at Luna, before taking a few steps back from the edge of the embankment. It kept its eyes fixed on its cub, but gave enough space for the humans to help Luna. The ranger lay flat on her stomach, extending her arms down toward Luna. "Okay, sweetheart, just a few more feet. You can do this." Luna began moving upward again, her muscles screaming in protest. The cub stirred slightly in its sling, letting out a tiny whimper that caused its mother to shift anxiously. Luna's own mother was now lying beside the ranger, also reaching down. "Come on, baby," Ming called, her voice breaking. "Just a little more." With the last of her strength, Luna reached up and felt strong hands grasp her arms. In one careful motion, they pulled her up over the edge of the embankment. The mother bear made a low sound, moving forward with concern for its cub. Luna's father immediately knelt beside her, his trained hands gently checking the cub's condition while Luna's mother wrapped them both in an emergency blanket. "The cub's hypothermic," Dr. Chen announced, his professional demeanor taking over despite the extraordinary circumstances. "The leg is definitely broken, and there are puncture wounds consistent with a mountain lion attack." He glanced at the mother bear, who watched his every movement with intense focus. She must have fought off a cougar to protect her cub. That explains her injuries, too. Ranger Martinez nodded, keeping her movements slow and deliberate as she opened the large medical kit that another ranger had brought forward. "The mother's wounds need treatment, too, but the cub is the priority. If we lose the cub, I don't know how she'll react." She looked at the mother bear with a mixture of awe and professional concern. "I've never seen anything like this in 20 years of wildlife work. She's deliberately seeking human help." Luna remained seated on the ground, still cradling the cub in her makeshift sling, as her father prepared what he needed from the medical kit. The mother bear had moved closer, now just a few feet away, its massive form illuminated by the rescue team's lights. Luna could see the blood matted in its fur, the evidence of its desperate fight to protect its baby. Despite its injuries, the bear's eyes never left its cub. "Luna, sweetheart," her father said softly, "I need you to hold the cub very still while I give it some medicine and check its injuries. Can you do that?" Luna nodded, her small hands gentle but firm on the tiny bear's body. The cub's eyes were open now, but it seemed too weak to struggle. The mother bear made a low sound, and to everyone's amazement the cub responded with a weak chirp. Dr. Chen worked quickly but carefully, cleaning the cub's wounds and administering antibiotics and fluids. His hands remained steady even as the massive mother bear loomed over them, close enough that they could feel its warm breath. Luna's mother had positioned herself protectively behind her daughter, but her scientific curiosity as a biologist was evident in her fascinated expression. "The break is clean, Doctor," Chen murmured, gently examining the cub's leg. "It needs to be set and splinted." He looked up at the mother bear as if asking permission. The bear held his gaze, and in that moment, something profound passed between them. Two beings devoted to saving a young life. The bear lowered its head slightly, almost like a nod. As Dr. Chen prepared to set the bone, Ranger Martinez spoke quietly to her team. "Document everything. This is unprecedented behavior. This could change everything we think we know about bear intelligence and interspecies cooperation." She turned to Luna, who was softly humming a Chinese lullaby to the cub. "You've done something amazing here, little one. You understood what the mother bear was trying to tell you when all of us adults would have just seen a threat." The cub let out a sharp cry as Dr. Chen set its leg, causing the mother bear to surge forward with a worried growl. Luna instinctively reached out her small hand and placed it on the bear's nose, just as she would to comfort a worried dog. To everyone's astonishment, the bear stilled at her touch. "It's okay," Luna whispered. "Baba is helping. He makes animals better. That's his job." Time seemed to stand still in the rain-soaked forest as Dr. Chen finished splinting the cub's leg and treating its other wounds. The mother bear remained incredibly still, watching the proceedings with an almost human-like understanding. Other rescue team members had formed a loose circle around the scene, their flashlights creating a gentle dome of light in the darkness. Many had taken out phones to record the extraordinary interaction, though Ranger Martinez had insisted they maintain absolute silence. As Dr. Chen finished his work, he sat back on his heels and addressed the mother bear directly. "The cub will need time to heal, but it should recover fully." He turned to Ranger Martinez. "We need to get them both to a wildlife rehabilitation center. The mother's wounds need proper treatment too, and the cub will need ongoing care." The ranger nodded thoughtfully. "The challenge will be getting them there. Normally we'd have to tranquilize them both, but—" She gestured at the extraordinary scene before them. "This isn't exactly a normal situation. This mother bear has shown she trusts humans, or at least she trusts Luna. Maybe we can work with that." As if understanding their dilemma, the mother bear slowly lowered herself to the ground, her eyes fixed on her cub still nestled in Luna's arms. Blood continued to seep from the deep gashes in her side, and her breathing had become more labored. Dr. Chen noticed her deteriorating condition immediately. "She's losing too much blood," he said quietly to Ranger Martinez. "Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it soon." Luna, who had been listening intently while continuing to comfort the cub, spoke up in her small but clear voice. "She'll follow us," she said with the simple confidence of a child. "She trusted me to help her baby. She knows we want to help her too." She looked up at the ranger with earnest eyes. "Can I ride in the truck with them?" I think she'll be scared without me." Ranger Martinez exchanged looks with Luna's parents. The idea of putting a child in close quarters with an injured wild bear went against every safety protocol they had. But then again, everything about this situation defied normal wildlife behavior. Ming stepped forward, her scientist's mind working through the problem. "What if we use the large animal transport trailer? Luna and I could sit with the cub in the forward compartment, with the mother bear in the connected rear section. They'd be able to see and smell each other through the divider." Dr. Chen nodded slowly, warming to the idea. "The mother bear seems to understand we're helping. If she can see her cub is safe with Luna, she might remain calm during transport." He turned to Ranger Martinez. "We should still have tranquilizers ready, just in case, but I think trying this method first might be our best option." The ranger made her decision. "Okay, let's do it. But we need to move carefully and keep everyone calm." She began issuing quiet orders to her team, coordinating the complex operation. The large animal transport trailer was carefully backed up to the nearest point on the forest road, its path illuminated by the rescue vehicle's headlights. Luna's father prepared more pain medication for both bears, while Luna continued to speak softly to the cub, which had begun to show more signs of life as its body temperature normalized. The mother bear watched the human's preparations with obvious exhaustion but remained remarkably calm. When the trailer was ready, Ranger Martinez approached Luna and her precious cargo. "Okay, sweetheart," she said gently. "We're going to walk very slowly to the trailer. Your mom will be right beside you, and we need you to keep talking to both the cub and its mama. They trust your voice now." Luna nodded seriously, understanding the importance of her role. Dr. Chen moved to support the mother bear, who had struggled to her feet, swaying slightly from blood loss. The small procession moved carefully through the wet forest. Luna and her mother led the way, with Luna softly singing a Chinese lullaby her grandmother had taught her. The mother bear followed, supported by Dr. Chen and Ranger Martinez, her massive frame dwarfing the humans beside her. The rest of the rescue team created a wide corridor with their lights, maintaining a respectful distance. When they reached the trailer, Luna and Ming climbed carefully into the forward compartment, which had been padded with soft blankets. Luna settled against her mother, still cradling the cub, which now responded to her voice with tiny chirping sounds. The mother bear paused at the trailer's rear entrance, her wild instincts warring with her need for help and her trust in these humans who had saved her baby. Luna's voice drifted from the forward compartment, speaking in the mix of English and Chinese she used when she was tired or emotional. "Mama Xiong, bu yao haipa," she called softly. "Mama Bear, don't be afraid." The bear's ears pricked forward at the sound of her voice, and with remarkable gentleness for such a large animal, she stepped into the trailer. The team quickly secured the doors while maintaining a clear line of sight between mother and cub through the reinforced divider. Dr. Chen climbed in beside his wife and daughter, medical kit at the ready. As Ranger Martinez prepared to close the final door, she paused to take in the scene before her. In the soft light of the trailer, a tiny Chinese girl sat wrapped in her mother's arms, holding a bear cub that should have died in that dark forest. Behind the divider, a massive wild bear that should have been fighting them with every ounce of its strength instead lay quietly, watching its cub with trusting eyes. The ranger had seen many things in her years of wildlife work, but she knew she was witnessing something unprecedented. A moment when the barriers between human and wild had somehow dissolved, replaced by something deeper and more profound. The journey to the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center took almost 2 hours through the rainy night. Inside the trailer, Luna had fallen into an exhausted sleep against her mother's shoulder, but her small hands remained protectively wrapped around the bear cub. The cub, too, had drifted off, its breathing stronger now thanks to Dr. Chen's treatment. Through the divider, the mother bear maintained her vigil, refusing to rest despite her own injuries. Ming noticed how the bear's eyes would occasionally drift closed, only to snap open again to check on its cub, reminding her of her own sleepless nights when Luna had been sick. Dr. Chen spent the journey monitoring both bears' conditions, moving carefully between the compartments. He spoke quietly into a voice recorder, documenting everything for what he knew would become an important wildlife behavior study. The mother bear's response to human intervention continues to defy established behavioral patterns, he noted. Her trust appears to extend beyond just my daughter to include all humans involved in the rescue, suggesting a level of cognitive sophistication previously undocumented in ursine species. When they finally arrived at the Northern Cascades Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, they found a full team waiting for them. News of the extraordinary rescue had traveled ahead, and Dr. Elena Rossi, the center's lead wildlife veterinarian, had assembled her most experienced staff. As the trailer doors opened, Dr. Rossi's eyes widened at the sight before her. A child sleeping peacefully beside a bear cub, with its enormous mother watching calmly from the other compartment. "In 30 years of wildlife medicine, I've never seen anything like this," Dr. Rossi whispered to Ranger Martinez. The ranger simply nodded, still processing the events of the night herself. They had prepared a special enclosure for the bears, a spacious, heated space where mother and cub could recover together, with an attached medical treatment area. Luna stirred as the medical team approached, blinking sleepily in the bright lights of the center. The mother bear immediately tensed, sensing the presence of new humans, but Luna's voice quickly calmed her. "It's okay," she said, her voice thick with sleep. "They're doctors, like Baba. They'll make you both better." The bear's posture relaxed slightly at the sound of her voice, though she watched the new humans with cautious eyes. Dr. Rossi knelt beside the trailer, speaking in the soft, measured tones she used with all injured wildlife. "We need to transfer them to the medical unit," she explained to Luna. "Would you help us? I think they'll follow your lead." Luna nodded, her face serious with responsibility. Dr. Chen had already briefed the medical team on the bear's injuries, and they had prepared accordingly. What followed was a carefully choreographed process that left even the experienced wildlife staff in awe. Luna walked slowly toward the prepared enclosure, carrying the cub with her mother's help. The mother bear, despite her obvious pain and exhaustion, followed with remarkable patience, allowing Dr. Chen and Dr. Rossi to support her weakening frame. The other staff members maintained a respectful distance, documenting every moment of this unprecedented event. Inside the enclosure, Luna helped settle the cub onto a soft bed of straw and heating pads. The mother bear immediately lay down beside her baby, finally allowing herself to show the full extent of her exhaustion. Dr. Rossi worked quickly to set up IV lines for both bears, administering much-needed fluids and antibiotics. Through it all, Luna sat nearby, speaking softly in her mixture of English and Chinese, keeping both bears calm as the medical team worked. "The cub's temperature is almost normal now," Dr. Rossi announced after examining both bears thoroughly. "The leg has been expertly splinted. Nice work, Doctor. Chen, and although there's some infection in the wounds, I think we've caught it in time." She turned to the mother bear, her professional demeanor slipping slightly as she marveled at the animal's continued cooperation. "Her injuries are severe, but not life-threatening. She's lost a lot of blood, but with proper treatment and rest, both should make a full recovery." Luna's parents exchanged relieved looks, but Luna's attention remained fixed on the bears. The mother bear had curled her massive body around her cub, but her eyes stayed on Luna, filled with an intelligence that seemed to transcend the natural order of things. Dr. Rossi noticed the connection between them and made a decision that went against all standard protocols. "Luna," she said gently, "would you like to stay until they fall asleep? I think your presence is helping them feel safe here." Luna nodded eagerly, and her parents, understanding the uniqueness of the situation, didn't object. Under the careful supervision of the medical team, Luna sat on a small stool near the bear's bed. She began to sing softly, the same lullaby she had sung in the forest, her clear child's voice filling the quiet medical unit. Over the next few weeks, the Northern Cascades Wildlife Rehabilitation Center became a second home for the Chen family. Dr. Rossi had never seen anything like the bond between Luna and the bears, and after careful consideration she made an unprecedented decision to allow Luna's supervised visits during the recovery process. The mother bear, whom Luna had named Mei, meaning beautiful in Chinese, continued to display extraordinary tolerance for human presence, especially when Luna was nearby. Dr. Chen worked closely with the wildlife medical team, his expertise with animal rehabilitation proving invaluable. The cub, which Luna called Xiaolong, meaning little dragon, grew stronger each day. Its broken leg healed cleanly, and soon it was attempting wobbly steps under its mother's watchful eye. The puncture wounds from the mountain lion attack gradually closed, leaving only small scars beneath its growing fur. Ming spent hours documenting everything, her biologists training unable to resist the opportunity to study this remarkable case of interspecies cooperation. She noticed how Mei would watch Luna during her visits, tracking the child's movements with an intelligence that seemed to challenge everything they knew about wild animal behavior. The bear would often position herself so she could see Luna while the medical team worked, as if the child's presence reassured her that everything was safe. "It's extraordinary," Doctor," Rossi explained to a team of wildlife researchers who had come to observe the case. "The mother bear seems to have developed a type of cross-species maternal instinct. She's not just tolerating human presence, she's actively seeking Luna's company, almost as if she's adopted her as a second cub. Yaoesishi." The researchers watched through the observation window as Luna sat cross-legged near the bear's enclosure, reading stories from her favorite book while Xiaolong played with enrichment toys nearby under May's protective gaze. Ranger Martinez visited regularly, bringing updates about the mountain lion situation. "We found evidence of the attack site," she reported one afternoon. "There were signs of a massive fight. May must have battled the mountain lion for quite some time before driving it away. It's amazing she had the strength to then seek out help for her cub." The ranger watched as Luna demonstrated to Xiaolong how to solve a food puzzle the enrichment team had created. She saved her cub twice that night, first from the mountain lion, and then by trusting a human child to help when she couldn't do any more on her own. As the days passed, the Wildlife Center became a place of healing for more than just the bears. Luna, who had always been a quiet child, blossomed under the responsibility of helping with the bear's recovery. Her parents watched in amazement as she confidently assisted the medical team, somehow knowing exactly when May needed reassurance or when Xiaolong was feeling frustrated with its physical therapy exercises. The story of Luna and the bears spread beyond the Wildlife Center, capturing the imagination of people around the world. News crews gathered at the center's gates, eager to document this extraordinary tale of trust and cooperation between species. Dr. Rossi carefully managed the media attention, ensuring it didn't disturb the bear's recovery, but she understood the importance of sharing this story. "What happened here challenges our entire understanding of wildlife behavior," she explained in one carefully monitored interview. "It shows us that the emotional capabilities of these animals might be far more sophisticated than we ever imagined." 6 weeks into their recovery, as spring began to warm the mountains, Dr. Rossi gathered the team for an important discussion. "May and Xiaolong have healed remarkably well," she announced, showing them the latest medical scans. "The cub's leg is fully healed, and May's wounds have closed completely. They're both strong and healthy." She paused, looking particularly at Luna, who had become such a constant presence in the center. It's time to start planning their return to the wild. Luna, who had been helping to prepare the bear's morning meal, grew very still at these words. She had known this day would come, her parents had gently prepared her for it, but the reality still made her heart ache. May, as if sensing the child's distress, let out a soft chuff and moved closer to the enclosure wall near Luna. Dr. Rossi watched this interaction with a mix of professional interest and personal emotion. The release plan was carefully developed over the next 2 weeks. The wildlife team had selected a remote area deep in the protected forest, far from human settlements but rich in natural food sources. They would use a soft release approach, setting up a temporary feeding station that would be gradually phased out as the bears readjusted to finding their own food. Dr. Chen worked with Luna to help her understand why this was necessary for the bear's well-being. "Remember how May fought so hard to protect Xiaolong?" he explained gently one evening as they watched the bears through the observation window. "That's because bears need to be free to teach their cubs how to survive in the forest. Xiaolong needs to learn from May how to find food, how to make a den, how to stay safe." Luna nodded, though her eyes were filled with tears. The cub had grown significantly during its time at the center, its playful personality emerging more each day as it grew stronger. Dr. Rossi had another concern she shared with Luna's parents privately. "The bond between Luna and the bears is remarkable," she explained. but we need to ensure it doesn't prevent them from readjusting to wild behavior. The more time they spend with humans, the harder it might be for them to maintain their natural instincts. Ming understood the scientific reasoning, but her heart ached for her daughter, who had formed such a profound connection with these magnificent creatures. The day before the planned release, the center's staff organized a special gathering. Wildlife researchers who had been studying Mei and Xiaolong's case shared their findings, explaining how this extraordinary experience had changed their understanding of bear intelligence and emotional capacity. Ranger Martinez presented Luna with a Junior Ranger badge, specially created to honor her role in the rescue. "You showed us that sometimes the youngest among us can teach the most important lessons," she said, pinning the badge on Luna's jacket. On the morning of the release, a small convoy of vehicles made its way deep into the forest. The bear's transport cage was carefully loaded into a specialized truck, with Luna riding alongside her parents in a separate vehicle. The journey was quiet, everyone feeling the weight of the moment. Through the transport cage's window, Luna could see Mei's dark eyes watching the passing forest, while Xiaolong dozed against its mother's fur. They reached the release site as the sun rose higher in the sky, its warm light filtering through the tall pines. The location had been carefully chosen, a peaceful clearing near a stream, surrounded by berry bushes and other natural food sources. The wildlife team efficiently set up the temporary feeding station while Dr. Rossi made final health checks on both bears. The moment of release approached, and Dr. Rossi called Luna forward. "Would you like to help open their cage?" she asked softly. Luna nodded, her small face serious with responsibility. Her parents stood nearby, ready to support her through this difficult goodbye. With trembling hands, Luna reached for the cage door's release mechanism. Just before she pulled it, she spoke to the bears one last time, her voice barely above a whisper. "Zaijian Mei, Zaijian Xiaolong," she said, using the Chinese words for goodbye. "Thank you for trusting me." The mother bear's eyes seemed to hold Luna's gaze, and in that moment something passed between them that transcended the barriers of species, a recognition of the bond they had formed, of the trust that had saved 2 lives on that stormy night. The cage door opened slowly. Mei emerged first, her powerful form moving with the natural grace that weeks of healing had restored. She paused at the cage entrance, scanning the forest with alert eyes, her nose testing the familiar sense of her natural home. Xiaolong followed, its previously broken leg now strong enough to support its confident movements. The cub bounded a few steps into the clearing, then looked back at Luna, letting out a small sound that seemed almost like a farewell. What happened next left even the experienced wildlife team speechless. Instead of heading straight for the forest, Mei turned and walked deliberately toward Luna. The team tensed, but Dr. Rossi held up a hand, preventing any intervention. The massive bear stopped a few feet from Luna and lowered her head to the child's level. Luna, showing no fear, reached out and gently touched Mei's nose one last time. The bear held still for this final contact, her eyes soft with an emotion that challenged everything humans thought they knew about wild animals. Then, with a gentle chuff, Mei stepped back and called to her cub. Xiaolong bounded to its mother's side, full of energy and health, so different from the tiny injured cub Luna had carried through the rain. Together, mother and cub moved toward the forest's edge. At the tree line, Mei paused for one last look at the humans who had saved her baby. In that moment, the morning sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the clearing in a golden light. Then, with silent grace, the bears disappeared into the shadows of their forest home. Luna stood watching the empty tree line long after the bears had vanished, her small hands clasped together, as if holding on to the memory of that final touch. Her parents stood close behind her, offering quiet support. Dr. Rossi and her team began quietly packing up their equipment, all of them moved by the depth of emotion in that farewell. Even Ranger Martinez, with all her years of experience, wiped tears from her eyes. The impact of Luna's extraordinary experience rippled far beyond that forest clearing. Dr. Rossi's research paper about the case, co-authored with Dr. Chen and titled Cross-Species Empathy and Trust, a revolutionary case study in ursine-human interaction, was published in leading wildlife journals. The paper challenged long-held beliefs about wild animal behavior and sparked new discussions about animal consciousness and emotional intelligence. Luna's story inspired changes in wildlife rescue protocols. The Northern Cascades Wildlife Center developed new guidelines for handling injured bears, incorporating lessons learned from May's remarkable trust in humans. Ranger Martinez used the experience to create educational programs teaching children about wildlife conservation, always featuring the story of a little girl who understood that sometimes the strongest connections come without words. The Chen family's life changed too. Luna's parents noticed a new confidence in their daughter. The quiet child who had once hesitated to raise her hand in class now gave presentations to her schoolmates about wildlife conservation. She started taking nature photography classes, hoping to capture images that would help others understand and protect wild animals. Her bedroom walls filled with drawings of bears, each one a memory of May and Xiaolong. 6 months after the release, Ranger Martinez invited the Chen family back to the forest. Using tracking data from a special collar May had been fitted with, designed to fall off naturally after a year, they knew the bears were thriving in their natural habitat. From a safe distance, guided by the ranger, they hiked to an observation point. There, through binoculars, they spotted a familiar shape, May, teaching a now-grown Xiaolong how to fish in a stream. The cub's previously broken leg showed no sign of weakness as it splashed in the water, attempting to copy its mother's skilled movements. As they watched the bears in their natural habitat, Dr. Chen noticed something remarkable. "Look at how close they are to the observation point," he whispered. "Most bears would have detected our presence and moved away by now." Indeed, May seemed aware of their presence but showed no concern, continuing her lessons with Xiaolong as if acknowledging the human's right to share this moment. Luna smiled, watching through her own small pair of binoculars. She understood now what her experience had taught the scientific world, that the line between wild and tame, between animal and human understanding, was not as clear as everyone had thought. The trust that had begun on a stormy night between a lost child and an injured mother had evolved into something more, a reminder that love, courage, and compassion could bridge even the widest of natural divides. Years later, Luna would return to these forests as a wildlife veterinarian herself, following in her father's footsteps. She never again had such an extraordinary encounter with a wild bear, nor did she expect to. But sometimes, when treating injured wildlife, she would see in their eyes that same spark of understanding she had first witnessed in May's gaze. And she would remember that magical time when a child's trust and a mother's love had proven stronger than the ancient barriers between human and wild. The story of Luna and the bears became legend in the wildlife community, shared at conferences and taught in veterinary schools as an example of how much humans still had to learn about the emotional lives of animals. But for Luna, it remained something simpler and more personal. A reminder that sometimes the most profound connections come not from scientific knowledge or human expertise, but from the pure, unquestioning trust of a child's heart meeting the deep, instinctive love of a mother, transcending all barriers of species and understanding. As Luna grew older, her connection to wildlife only deepened. By the time she turned 16, she had transformed her childhood experience into a mission. Working alongside her father at his veterinary clinic, she developed a special talent for handling frightened animals. Other vets noticed how even the most aggressive injured animals would calm in her presence, as if sensing the same gentle spirit that had once earned a mother bear's trust. During her senior year of high school, Luna started a wildlife education program in local elementary schools. She would visit classrooms with carefully chosen ambassador animals, rescued creatures that couldn't return to the wild, and teach children about respecting and protecting wildlife. Her favorite part was sharing the story of Mei and Xiaolong, watching young faces light up with wonder at the tale of trust between a child and a wild bear. "Animals understand more than we think," she would tell the children, showing them photographs from that remarkable time. "They feel love, fear, and trust just like we do. The trick is learning to listen with your heart, not just your ears." The children would lean forward, entranced, as Luna described the night she had helped carry an injured bear cub through the rain, guided by its mother's trust. Dr. Rossi's research continued to yield fascinating results. Trail cameras in the area where Mei and Xiaolong had been released captured extraordinary footage of their adaptation back to wildlife. Unlike other bears who typically avoided areas with human scent, Mei showed a unique behavior pattern. She would often bring her cub to the edges of marked trails, allowing hikers to observe them from a safe distance. It was as if she were deliberately teaching Xiaolong that not all humans were threats. On Luna's 18th birthday, something remarkable happened. She was helping Ranger Martinez conduct a wildlife survey in the same section of forest where she had first met Mei and Xiaolong. As they hiked through a quiet clearing, they spotted a large female bear, teaching two cubs how to forage for berries. The bear looked up at their approach, and Luna's heart skipped a beat. Though older now, those intelligent eyes were unmistakable. It was Mei. The bear watched them calmly as her cubs played nearby, showing none of the defensive behavior typical of mother bears. Ranger Martinez stood amazed as Mei deliberately caught Luna's gaze and made a soft chuffing sound, the same sound she had used during their time together at the Wildlife Center. One of the cubs, likely curious about its mother's unusual behavior, bounded closer to investigate the humans. It had a distinctive white patch on its chest, just like Xiaolong. "She remembers," Luna whispered, tears filling her eyes. "And that's Xiaolong's cub." The moment crystallized everything Luna had learned about wildlife over the years, that animals were capable of forming lasting bonds, of remembering kindness, and of passing their experiences down to new generations. This encounter inspired Luna to expand her research. Working with a team of wildlife behaviorists during her college years, she began studying how positive early experiences with humans might influence wild animal behavior across generations. Her observations suggested that animals who had experienced human kindness might pass on a more nuanced understanding of human interaction to their offspring, creating subtle but significant changes in wildlife-human relationships. The Northern Cascades Wildlife Center established a new protocol for rehabilitating injured bears, incorporating the lessons learned from Luna's experience. They discovered that using younger volunteers under careful supervision often resulted in more successful rehabilitation outcomes, as if the animals responded to the innocence and openness of children in a way they didn't with adults. Luna's childhood diary, filled with detailed observations of her time with Mei and Xiaolong, became the foundation for a groundbreaking study on animal emotional intelligence. Her simple, honest descriptions of the bear's behavior provided insights that more technical scientific observations had missed. The diary entries, written in a child's straightforward way, revealed patterns of communication and emotional expression that challenged existing theories about animal consciousness. As Luna entered graduate school at the University of Washington's prestigious wildlife biology program, her unique experience continued to shape her research. She focused on studying what she called emotional bridges between humans and wild animals, documenting cases where traditional barriers between species seemed to dissolve in moments of crisis or need. Her professors were initially skeptical of her approach, viewing it as too subjective for serious scientific study. But Luna's meticulous documentation methods, combined with the growing body of evidence from other researchers studying animal intelligence, gradually won them over. During her second year of graduate studies, Luna received an urgent call from Ranger Martinez. A situation had developed in Yellowstone National Park that echoed her childhood experience. A young grizzly bear, separated from its mother during a forest fire, had been found protecting a lost hiker's dog. The bear had stayed with the injured dog for 2 days, keeping other predators away until rescue teams arrived. The park rangers, remembering Luna's story, wanted her expertise. When Luna arrived at Yellowstone, she found herself facing a scene that brought tears to her eyes. The young grizzly, though clearly afraid, refused to leave the injured dog's side. Working with the park's wildlife team, Luna helped develop a rescue plan that respected this unexpected bond. Her approach, based on her experience with May, focused on maintaining trust rather than forcing separation. The success of this intervention led to the establishment of the Interspecies Emergency Response Protocol, IERP, a new framework for handling unusual wildlife situations. The protocol emphasized patience, observation, and respect for unexpected animal behaviors, especially in crisis situations. Wildlife centers across North America began adopting these guidelines, reporting increased success rates in rehabilitation and reduced stress in rescued animals. Back in the Northern Cascades, the long-term effects of May's story continued to unfold. Trail cameras documented how her descendants, now spanning 3 generations, showed unusually calm behavior around humans. While maintaining a safe distance, these bears displayed none of the aggressive defensive reactions common to their species. Wildlife biologists dubbed this the May effect, the inheritance of positive human associations across multiple generations of wild animals. Luna's research expanded to include other species. She documented cases of wolves protecting lost children, elephants helping injured humans, and dolphins guiding stranded boats to safety. Each case added to a growing body of evidence suggesting that animals possessed far greater emotional complexity than previously believed. Her work began bridging the gap between hard science and the countless anecdotal stories of animal empathy that had often been dismissed as mere anthropomorphism. One rainy evening, 20 years after her first encounter with May and Xiaolong, Luna sat in her office at the newly established Center for Wildlife Consciousness Studies. The walls were covered with photographs and research papers, but at the center hung a simple framed picture: a small Chinese girl touching noses with a massive bear. As she reviewed footage from the latest wildlife cameras, something caught her attention. A young bear, likely one of May's great-grand cubs, was showing a remarkable behavior pattern. The footage showed the bear discovering a young fox kit with its leg caught in some brambles. Instead of ignoring the kit or seeing it as prey, the bear carefully helped free the small animal, using the same gentle movements Luna remembered seeing in May. This wasn't just learned behavior. It was evidence of inherited empathy, passing through generations of wild bears whose ancestor had once trusted a human child. Luna's phone rang. It was Dr. Rossi, now in her 70s, but still actively involved in wildlife research. "Luna, you need to see this," she said excitedly. "We've been analyzing vocalization patterns from bears across the region. The descendants of Mei and Xiaolong have developed a distinct communication style, different from other bear populations. They use more complex vocal patterns, especially when interacting with humans or other species. It's as if that first act of trust opened up new pathways of communication that have been strengthening through generations." This discovery led to an unprecedented international symposium on animal consciousness at the University of Washington. Scientists from around the world gathered to discuss Luna's research and similar cases of extraordinary animal behavior. The symposium included presentations from researchers who had documented remarkable instances of cross-species empathy. Dolphins protecting seals from orca attacks, elephants guarding injured rhinos, and even cases of natural predators sheltering their usual prey during natural disasters. During her keynote speech, Luna shared something she had never publicly revealed before. "The night I found Mei and Xiaolong," she told the packed auditorium, "I was terrified. Not just of being lost, but of failing them. I was 6 years old, carrying an injured bear cub through a storm, with its mother watching my every move. But something remarkable happened in those dark hours. I stopped seeing them as wild animals to be feared, and they stopped seeing me as a human to be avoided. We were just 3 beings who needed each other." The audience sat in rapt attention as Luna played newly enhanced footage from the Wildlife Center's security cameras, showing Mei's unprecedented behavior during their recovery. The bear could be seen actively participating in her cub's physical therapy, understanding and following complex medical procedures, and even attempting to comfort other injured animals in nearby enclosures. The footage provided compelling evidence of sophisticated emotional intelligence and social awareness that went far beyond traditional understanding of ursine behavior. Luna's research team made another groundbreaking discovery when they began studying brain activity patterns in bears using non-invasive scanning technology. They found that Mei's descendants showed enhanced development in areas associated with emotional processing and social cognition. It appeared that the experience of trust and cooperation with humans had actually influenced the neural development of subsequent generations, creating what geneticists termed epigenetic adaptations toward enhanced empathy. The implications of these findings reached beyond wildlife biology into human psychology and sociology. Researchers began studying how early positive experiences between traditionally adversarial groups could create lasting changes that passed through generations. Luna's story became a metaphor for breaking down barriers of fear and mistrust, not just between species, but between human communities as well. One morning, while reviewing data in her laboratory, Luna received an urgent message from a wildlife sanctuary in British Columbia. They had rescued a young bear that exhibited unusual behavior. Instead of showing aggression or fear, it appeared to be actively seeking human assistance for an injured wolf pup. Genetic testing would later confirm that this bear was a direct descendant of Mei, 5 generations removed. The sanctuary staff were amazed to watch as the bear stayed close to the veterinary clinic where the wolf pup was being treated, displaying the same protective behavior that its great-great-grandmother had shown toward a lost human child so many years ago. This incident sparked a new phase in Luna's research. Working with geneticists and neurobiologists, she began mapping what they called the compassion cascade, the biological mechanisms through which experiences of trust and empathy could alter genetic expression in ways that influenced future generations. The study revealed that positive interactions between species could trigger lasting changes in stress response systems, fear processing, and social bonding capabilities. As Luna approached her 30th birthday, she established the Mei Foundation for Interspecies Understanding. The Foundation's first project was the creation of a revolutionary wildlife rehabilitation center that incorporated all they had learned about animal consciousness and emotional intelligence. The center's design was based on principles of trust building and cross-species cooperation, featuring special observation areas where rescued animals could safely interact with each other and with human caregivers. The Foundation also launched an innovative education program that brought children from urban areas to learn about wildlife in a hands-on, empathy-focused environment. Luna remembered how her own childhood encounter with May had shaped her understanding of animals, and she wanted to create similar opportunities for other young people to develop deep connections with wildlife.